Your home is probably one of the most important things to you, and it may be one of your largest assets. This is a very common thing for people to be concerned about. When it comes down to it, anything in divorce is going to be divided in one of three ways. Either you're going to keep it, your spouse is going to keep it, or you guys are going to sell it. So when it comes to the house, you're going to buy your spouse out, they're going to buy you out, or you're going to sell it. You guys can agree upon when you're going to sell it, or how you're going to sell it, or how you're going to buy them out. But the reality is, those are your options. Now, if you're going to buy out your spouse, you need to make sure you understand what the value is. Do you know what the equity is in the home? Can you pay them that equity so that they get their portion of that asset? If you can't, unfortunately, they are either going to buy you out or you're going to sell it. When it comes to other assets, such as your savings, investments, other accounts are going to be divided equitably. In other words, it's not necessarily 50-50. It might be 50-50. It might not. Whenever possible, we want to consolidate the accounts if we can, so we can make this a lot simpler. Rather than having 10 accounts and going through and dividing them all up, if we can combine some of them and make it less transactions, it's going to make it a lot easier. But at the end of the day, we have to figure out, how do we want to divide this up? If we're going to go 50-50, what we have to do is figure out what's in these accounts, set a value on it, and then divide up the accounts in a manner that makes sense. This might mean that you keep these accounts and your spouse keeps these accounts, or you simply go through and figure out a valuation date, such as the date of the divorce. You divide each of them in half, and then you make sure that each account is paid out accordingly. Retirement accounts are an important part of a divorce. Now, we've talked about marital property and non-marital property. Retirement accounts are one of those things that's kind of the exception to the rule. In other words, the accounts can be both marital and non-marital. So if you were working and you had a retirement account established before the marriage and you added to it during the marriage, a portion of that account will remain non-marital, and the portions acquired during the marriage would be marital. In those situations, what we have to then do is divide up those accounts equitably. For example, if parties are going to divide the marital portions 50-50, we have to identify which accounts are going to be divisible and how we're going to divide it. Each one of these accounts has their own rules. This is where things can get a little bit complex, a little bit complicated, but you can get through it. Depending on the type of an account will depend upon what vehicle or tool you need to do to transfer the funds. So when it comes to the retirement accounts, it's important to identify the accounts and make sure you understand what they are, and then you have to figure out what forms are needed in order to transfer some funds from one person to the other. QDRO is something that you're going to hear if you're going through a divorce process and there's retirement accounts. QDRO stands for Qualified Domestic Relations Order. So if you know anything about retirement accounts, you'll know that typically you need to be at least 59.5 before you can take any money out of your retirement accounts without incurring a penalty and paying additional taxes. If you've got a retirement account and you're trying to take some funds out from one person and give them to the other, that would incur taxes and potentially penalties if you do it the wrong way. Once you've identified that you need to actually divide the account, you need to put together your settlement agreement, and then ultimately you're going to prepare that QDRO and send it off to the retirement plan. They're called the plan administrator. They will then process the documents and transfer the funds from one person to the other pursuant to those terms.